office. And it's great to be at your side once again. We're going to stay at your side. You know, we stand at a real inflection point in history. I know you and I have talked about this, where the decisions we make now are going to determine the future for decades to come, particularly in Europe. And this is one of those moments. Congress needs to pass a supplemental funding for Ukraine before they break for the holiday recess, before they give Putin the greatest Christmas gift they could possibly give him. And so because we've seen what happens when dictators don't pay the price for the damage and the death and the destruction they cause, and they keep going when no price is paid. The threats to America, to Europe, and the world will only keep rising if we don't act. And I intend that we act. The American people, Democrats and Republicans alike, I think, understand this, and they understand the very real fight that's going on right now. In the winter, this winter, Putin plans once again to bombard Ukraine's electric grid, intends to, with rockets, plunging families into darkness in the coldest part of the year, and doing great damage. We can't and won't let him succeed. We mustn't let him succeed in that. Mr. President, I've called on Congress to do the right thing, to stand with Ukraine, and to stand up for freedom. And I want to thank you for being here. You're going to help the cause, and I don't want you giving up hope.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Dear journalists, are really glad to be here at the White House today and share some very important messages. Thank you for the invitation, and I'd like to thank America and our partners for the support. And today, the special day, really a special day for Ukrainian people. It's a day of our land forces. Almost 600,000 incredibly brave Ukrainian sons and daughters are on the battlefield, and they were powerful. This is their day, and really they prove every day that Ukraine can win. And our forces are advancing, and we have successfully defeated Russia in the Black Sea, and Russia is hiding the remnants of its naval fleet in remote base. And meanwhile, Ukraine has set up an export corridor in the Black Sea that's really boosting our economy and global food security. Yesterday I met with the IMF and World Bank, and they're impressed with the Ukraine's economic growth, almost 5%, and that's significant. Ukraine is gradually becoming less dependent on aid, and we are moving to the right direction, and I want to discuss with the President how to strengthen it, especially enhancing our air defense and ability to destroy Russia's logistics. Our goals for 24 are clear: take away Russia's superiority and disrupt their offensive operations. And I think it's real. And also some other important things. I met with the heads of American defense companies yesterday. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Really powerful companies. I thank them, and thanks all the workers, engineers, managers who built the strengths of American weapons, helping Ukraine boost the development of arsenals of democracy. President Biden agreed, and we spoke about it in September, to joint weapon co-production. Is very important for us, and we'll discuss how to speed up this. And we also need to work faster with the frozen Russian assets, over 300 billion frozen assets from terrorists, and we should use it to protect against Russian terror. And I want to talk about some details regarding our reforms and EU integration. Ukraine continues to reform its institutions even during the war. It's very important for us, and we are successful. I think that's very important, and people need to be confident that freedom is secure and strong enough to win. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you. And before the press, hey, whoa, hush up a second, okay? I got one more thing to say. I just signed another $200 million drawdown from the Department of Defense for Ukraine, and that'll be coming quickly. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
President Biden, are you mad at me? President
That was President Biden and Ukrainian President Zelenskyy meeting in the Oval Office. President Biden saying that the U.S. support for Ukraine is strong. Both leaders making the case for additional aid, saying that now is the time, and stressing the urgency of the request for U.S. aid for Ukraine's military. I want to bring in ABC White House correspondent Karen Travers, who's been tracking this, along with Jay O'Brien on Capitol Hill. Karen, what strikes you from the president's remarks and from Zelensky's really direct plea there from the Oval Office?
Elizabeth, the president said he's calling on Congress to do the right thing and pass this aid to Ukraine that the White House says is so critical to allow Ukraine to continue its fight against Russia. The president said, "We have seen what happens when dictators do not pay the price," and that Vladimir Putin would keep going, would not stop with Ukraine. That's that argument about this being not just about what happens on the battlefield in Ukraine, but all about Americans' national security interest as well. You heard the president there after Zelenskyy had finished speaking, saying he wanted to make one more announcement, saying that he had just authorized another $200 million of assistance for Ukraine that would come from the Presidential Drawdown Authority. This is a kind of batch of money that they can turn to in order to keep money going. We know that that is dwindling down, just a couple $2 billion left there that the president can turn to keep assistance going to Ukraine. And the White House has said that they've essentially been rationing it over the last couple of weeks, doing smaller and smaller amounts, but still trying to keep aid going on a regular basis. But that number is going to get down to close to zero very soon unless Congress approves this funding. So there you had it from the president that this is urgent. Congress has to approve this funding because he said dictators must pay the price and Ukraine needs this assistance from the United States.
And Jay, the president said Republicans, he believes, understand the urgency of this request. What is the sense over there on Capitol Hill after leaders met with Zelenskyy today? Is there any renewed push to try to get this aid package passed?
No is the short answer. We've heard from Republicans, including Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, for instance, who met one-on-one with President Zelenskyy, emerged from behind closed doors after that meeting, and said while he appreciated meeting with the Ukrainian leader and that he has their back in their defense against Russia, his country's defense against Russia, Johnson said he wasn't going to change his mind, which is Republicans have said they want any additional aid for Ukraine, plus aid for Israel, and all of that stuff in the president's $100 billion plus foreign aid package to also be linked to wholesale changes in immigration policy. And negotiations over what those changes to immigration policy are at loggerheads right now. They've completely stalled out. One more thing that stood out to me about what the president said is the timing of all of this. He called on Congress to do it before they go home for the holidays. As you know, Elizabeth, as Karen knows as well, that's the end of this week, just days away. And he said if Congress doesn't pass aid for Ukraine by then, it will be, quote, the greatest gift they could ever give Vladimir Putin. But here's the thing. The reality check in all of this is getting something passed by the end of this week is incredibly unlikely at this hour. There are no meaningful negotiations happening that have really reached a breaking point when it comes to immigration policy changes, and nobody's going to move a bill, they say, Republicans rather say, without those changes in that bill.
A tall order, especially if we're talking about comprehensive immigration reform, which, as you know, has taken years to even get any negotiations. Karen, I want to go quickly to you, though. President Biden said he thinks the American people also understand the need for this aid to Ukraine. What point was he trying to make there?
Yeah, this is a tough point for the White House to make because support, of course, has been waning for assistance to Ukraine, you know, compared to what it was at the start of the war. I think the point the president was trying to get there, though, was that what he has said in the last few days and really trying to ramp this up is that this is not just about something overseas, that this is something that could potentially impact Americans. The president said last week that if Vladimir Putin were to succeed in Ukraine, what country is next? And if that is a country on NATO's eastern flank in Eastern Europe, the United States would have to come to the defense of a NATO ally because of Article 5. That would mean American troops, as the president said, fighting Russian troops.